Our topic today is two-factor authentication. This presentation today will discuss two-factor authentication with your Google account, but you must set it up as well for Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and any secure service. There should be some time at the end for some questions. So I want to show you 4 possible crises in life. In the top left corner, you're going to see a car accident, tragically maybe fatal. Nobody wakes up in the morning and decides to get in their car and go out and have an accident. If it happens, it happens. We try to wear our seatbelts, drive safely, and we try to prevent this from happening. But if it happens, it just happens. Below that is cancer, bad disease. We all try to prevent cancer. We like to eat healthy, stay away from smoking, but in the end, we can't prevent cancer. Up the top, you'll see identity theft. I do a lot of talking on identity theft. We can mitigate the possibility of getting identity theft, but if you get identity theft, you may find yourself in a bad crisis. Again, we can't prevent identity theft, so if it just may happen someday you wake up and you're going to have owe a lot of money to companies. And the fourth one is having your Google account hacked. Now, this is going to make your life very miserable, and I'm going to tell you exactly what happens when they do hack your account. But unlike the other 3 crises that you see on the screen, this one is totally preventable, and I can help you and prevent this from occurring. Now, I gave this talk about a week ago to a resort, and some seniors came to me and said, I'm just an old guy, why would anybody want to hack into my account? Now, the important thing that everybody needs to understand is exactly what's happening in the last 3 months. Ransomware, which is a horrible, horrible problem, is actually down by 70%. And this is good news. And the reason for this is because the bad guys were getting caught and going to jail. Nobody liked having their hospitals at ransom. Nobody liked having their police force at ransom or their libraries. So with a strong international presence of policing, they were catching the bad guys and putting them to jail. Now, this is largely switched now to hacking your Google account, and there are many reasons for this. But one of the big reasons is because of bitcoins and finances. People hack into your account to make money. There are large buildings all around the world that have many people working in them, and they have very sophisticated computers that are run artificial intelligence. What's artificial intelligence? It just makes your computer smart. And these buildings occur all around the world, and the people in them are well paid, but they're bad guys. And these people are all trying to hack into your account. And at a recent Google conference, there's over 1 million hacks a month into Google accounts. Now, these hacks that occur into the account are not pimply-faced teenagers trying to do this. These are all done as an automated system. And when it does occur, there's a pretty set pattern that is going to happen. And I just want to go over what's going to happen when you get hacked by a computer into your account. So the first thing is going to happen is they are going to access your account. They will turn off notifications, and they're going to change your password. This means you will not be able to get into your account. They're then going to ransack your inbox for stuff like a Bitcoin wallet. And they're going to look for financial stuff. This is a money-making process. You'll have recently noticed in the paper the last month, the whole issue of Bitcoins is resurfacing again because of the insecurity of how you're going to store this large amounts of money. Then they're going to copy compromising pictures. Many young people teenagers, young adults often take compromising pictures of themselves, and these pictures tend to surface, as you will see in tabloid magazines. When people become famous, they're either politicians or movie stars, and they somehow get pictures in the tabloids, and they say, how did those pictures get there? Oh, my account was hacked 7 years ago. They're going to copy your contact list. They're going to install a filter to mask their actions. They're going to look for financial information. They're going to look for passwords. They're going to look for your personal information. Then they're going to delete all your email, your contact list, and your Google Drive, and they will be out of your account in about 5 minutes. This is all done automatically, and so they're going to go through a lot of these accounts, and this happens, as I said, with probably about 1 million accounts a month. So you don't want to have this happen to you. This is a very, very bad thing. All your Google photos will be gone. You're going to wake up some morning and try to get into your Google account, and it's all gone. Google is trying to correct this. They're trying to prevent this, and they have very sophisticated systems in place to try and identify when this is happening and shut it down, but it still happens. And again, this is the Bitcoins. This was just in the paper this week. 3 major banks confirmed they won't allow cryptocurrency transactions with their credit cards. A lot of issues surrounding this. And again, this was the newspaper report, ransomware declining. So how are we going to protect ourselves? And of course, the traditional method of protecting ourselves is a username and password. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, but two-step verification is a an extra layer of security. It is something you know versus something you have. So, for example, something you know is your username and password. Something you have is something we're going to send you, such as an SMS text, and that's going to go to your phone. And that is something that you will have, and so you need something that you know and something that you have. And of course, if you got into biometrics, it would be something that you are, such as facial recognition or things like that. So two-factor authentication is one of the biggest bang for your bucks ways to improve the security of your online accounts. It's extra security to your online accounts on top of your password. Your site will request something you know to log in, a password, and something you have, your phone or a USB security key. Now, part of the problem of this is two-factor authentication is unique to every account. You can't simply turn on two-factor authentication for your computer. It won't work you have to set this up for each of your trusted sites. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So the setup process today is mostly we're going to talk about Google. It is different with different accounts. Oftentimes the terminology is confusing. I'm going to try to straighten that out for you. And I would recommend that you start with one account, which is Google, and turn on two-factor authentication with Google. Again, this is a recent conference. Google analyzed their stolen passwords, and about 250,000 accounts each week Google found are being tried to be hacked into. And a lot of this comes from two ways. One is phishing and one is keylogging. Now, I think we all understand what phishing is, but I want to just draw your attention to keylogging. Keylogging is a little bit of software that goes on a public computer, or any computer in that fact, and it's going to send the bad guys all the information on that computer. And so for this reason, I really do not think it's safe to use any public computers. The exception to that may be a library. The library people seem to have a pretty good security and they understand this, but you should stay away from computers in hotels. Stay away from computers at airports. Any public computers where someone may have access and can put a little bit of this software on, this is really bad and often is a big source of these stolen password. So key logging is a big factor. I'm not going to get into the data breaches this year. We all heard about the horrible one that was last summer, the big Equifax disaster, where basically everybody's Equifax account in the United States got hacked. And I'm not also going to mention the Yahoo hack, which hacked in over 1 billion accounts and stole everybody's user's name, password, and credit cards. But the hacks are common. You read about them in the newspaper every day. So your personal information is floating out there. Now, before we start on two-factor authentication, there's two concepts that you need to know. And I wanted just to go over this with you because this is really a stumbling block when I give this talk to resorts and so on and so forth. You have to understand these two concepts. The first concept is SMS text messaging versus SMS texting versus text messaging, and the second is trusted sites. So I found the easiest way to explain SMS text messaging is I want to just take you back in history. I want you to forget the internet. I want you to forget smartphones. I want to go back to your first cell phone you ever had. And if you look on the left side of the screen, you'll see my first Nokia cell phone. This is a cell phone I had, was one of my first cell phones I had. And this is long before the internet had been invented, long before we had data plans, and certainly long before we had smartphones. And what did we have? We had a simple phone. This is a cell phone. The cell phone took the signal, it's encrypted, it went up to the cell phone tower and got transmitted to another phone. Now, shortly after we had cell phones, the cell phones companies came up with texting. And this is called short message service, SMS. And the cell phone carriers devised this. And I want you to remember this now. The cell phone, so how does it work? Well, the message is created on your cell phone. It goes encrypted over the voice channels to the tower and then gets sent out. And so we had SMS texting long before we had internet, long before we had smartphones. This is called SMS texting. This is a button on the front of every smartphone, and this is how you send SMS text through your cell phone plan. Fast forward to 2018. We now have thousands of text messaging apps. The list is on the screen. We have Facebook, we have WhatsApp, we have Allo, we have many text messaging apps. These all work through the internet. And so if our moderator, David, wanted to send me a text message through Facebook, I would get a request to say, do you want to text with Dave? And I'd say, sure, he's a good guy. And we could sit there and we can text back and forth. But this process occurs over the internet. When we talk about two-factor authentication, it's always SMS texting. It's too insecure. If the bad guys got your username and password, they could certainly get your text messages because they would be going over the internet. So when we say in two-factor authentication, we're going to send you a text with a code, the text is going over your cell phone. It's an SMS text. It's not a text message. I hope everybody understands that because that offers a lot of confusion. The second thing I want to talk a little bit about are trusted sites. Now, I'm going to use Dave, again, the moderator, as an example here, but let's say Dave lives in Miami. And let's say Dave decides to open a new bank account. Dave's going to go to his bank manager and he's going to sit down with him, and his bank manager is going to open an account. Now, as part of that process, he's going to have Dave log into an online computer system, and Dave is going to create 5 security questions. Probably the security question would be something like, what's your high school? What's your favorite food? What's your name of your dog? He's going to create five security questions. Dave's then going to leave the bank and he's going to go home. He's going to go to his house. He's now excited about his new bank account and he's going to want to log in through his computer to the bank. So the bank is going to, so when he logs into the bank doesn't know who he is. It's just a computer talking to a computer. So he's going to get challenged. And this challenge is going to create these 5 questions. And of course, Dave is going to be able to answer those 5 questions. He's going to get them all right. So then the bank's computer looks at Dave's computer and says, hey, this is cool. He knows this is the real Dave Williams. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put a little cookie on the bank puts a little cookie on Dave's computer and says, if he logs in again, he's an okay guy. Also, with the modern browsers we have and the modern banking systems we have, there's a layer of security and bonding that occurs above and beyond the cookies as well. So the bank knows when Dave logs in now with his computer at home, and he's not going to get challenged with those 5 questions. So then Dave decides to come and he goes to Mesa. And he goes to Mesa to visit some friends. He takes his laptop and he wants to log into the bank. The bank is going to say, gee whiz, Dave's now in Mesa. So they're not sure that it is truly Dave anymore. Maybe someone stole his computer. So they will issue the challenge questions again. So he's going to have to go through those 5 questions again. And once he gets those correct, then he can log on in his computer in Mesa, and he's not going to get those challenged questions. These are called trusted sites. Now, one of the things that you have to be very careful about is using programs and software like CCleaner that is going to strip out cookies and strip out security in your browser. Because what's going to happen once we turn on two-factor authentication, you really want some sort of security that isn't too intrusive. You don't want to have to all the time be reaching for your cell phone and having to look up codes, and because it's if you're a busy guy or a busy person on a computer, you want to keep this simple. And so stripping out cookies is simply a way that you're going to remove the security of these trusted sites, and you're going to be ending up with more challenges. And what you don't want is a lot of challenges, because it's going to make it's sort of an obtrusive thing in your life. So those are 2 important things you need to understand. Then I want to come on now and I want to talk a little bit about passwords. Now, I've titled this slide, "The bigger you are, the harder you fall." And people in our computer club look up to myself and techie guys and say, "Oh, you're pretty smart. You'll never get hacked." It doesn't matter. It's just the trick. Anybody can trick anybody into giving up their username and password. I'm going to tell you, if you look down on the right-hand side, you'll see I'm going to tell you Byron's story. Now, Byron is a friend of mine for 30 years. He's on the left, I'm on the right. He's got, now Byron is a systems programmer. He is a security expert, and he was involved with a number of companies that I was part owner of. He is a very, very cautious individual, and you would say, when you looked at his computer with all his security systems he's got, he would never, ever be hacked, period. I'm going to tell you that it took all of 3 seconds for Byron to give up his username and password to his bank. So Byron phones me up, and we talk once a week, and he says, "Ron, I have a great cell phone plan you should try. The company's name is Fido, and it's a really good plan, and it's only $10 a month." So I said to Byron, "That's great, I'll do it." And Byron said, "Oh, by the way, I get $10 as a referral. So if you just give them my phone number, I will get a $10 referral fee. And I saw it's okay. So off we do. When I certainly signed up, and it worked well. And Byron never got his $10 for a while. And then one night, he was going for dinner at 5 o'clock with his wife. He gets a text message from Fido, and they said to him, "We have $40 to deposit in your account. Just click here to deposit electronically." So Byron, of course, there was the "I finally got my money," but the other part was they made a mistake. They're going to give him $40, not $10. So Byron clicks the link. It takes him to the standard website that the banks use for deposit. He clicks, puts his username and password in, and poof, the email goes away. Meanwhile, his wife is hollering, "Let's get going for dinner." So he wonders what happened. Anyway, he goes for dinner, and when he comes back that evening, he thinks, "I better log into the bank and see what happened." And of course, when he goes to log in, his account's being frozen. These guys got caught trying to hack in, and fortunately, because he had those 5 security questions, they couldn't get those, so they locked his account. So again, it just depends on how good the trick is. Now, I want to talk a little bit about passwords for a moment. Passwords. Now, there's some rules that came into place about 30 years ago. I want to talk a little bit about that. Passwords should be changed every 3 months. They should be complicated with upper and lower case, and they should be 8 characters or more. Now, who came up with this idea? Well, it happened to be a fellow by the name of Bill Burr. Now, Bill Burr worked at the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST. And in 2003, he wrote a publication, and the publication was called NIST Special Publication 800.63. Rumor has it that he had just got a computer then, and his boss came down the hall saying they had to come up with some standards for passwords, and did anybody know anything about computers? Bill said he'd tackle this as a young new employee, and he wrote this special publication. This had severe implications for all our lives, because in that, he came up with you should change your password every 3 months. And he made it up. He had absolutely no basis for that whatsoever. He came up with the idea that passwords should be complicated. No evidence that this worked at all. And he ultimately became manager at the National Institute of Standards. And he retired last year and wrote an article, and it did a TV appearance, and said to the Wall Street Journal, "Much of what I did, I regret. This is why the latest set of NIST guidelines recommend, it's a different recommendation." So those of you who worked in the military, who worked in government, and even in the Canadian military, you'll find that they all have set the standards to change your password every 3 months based on his publication 30 years ago. And this is really unfortunate, because it started to it made a passwords. People got very frustrated with this, and they had to create very simple passwords to try and remember them. And here's a list of the worst 2017 passwords, and you can see it's 1 2 3 4 5 6, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and so on and so forth. So the new guidelines are this: passwords should withstand about 100 guesses. You shouldn't be tied to any public information about you or your family. You should use a phrase and go long. The new guidelines suggest allowing users to create passwords of up to 64 characters. You don't need to change your password unless you have to. Choose something you can remember. Get creative with characters, and in fact, use two-factor identification. All right, so here are the 5 Google two-factor authentication plans in place. And we're going to talk about the first three. And I'm going to call these, if you look on the slide, I'm going to call them simple, super simple, and the simplest. I don't want you to, don't look at all the complicated stuff to the left. Just remember simple, super simple, and the simplest. All right. Now, I just wanted to let you know, you can go to twofactorauth.org to check and see if sites actually have two-factor authentication on them. All right, let's go to the first step of two-factor authentication is the simple one. It's going to get simpler. Trust me, it's going to get simpler, and then it's going to be the simplest. But this is simple. So all we're going to do is when you go to log into your account, we are going to send you an SMS text message.
Hey, Ron, you're cutting in and out.
Okay. Sorry. How's that? Is that better?
That's better now.
Okay. All right. We're going to enable SMS two-factor authentication. You need to provide an SMS phone number. This is your phone number for your cell phone. So the next time you log in with your username and password, you'll be asked to enter a short code, typically 5 or 6 digits. That gets text to your phone. This is a very popular option for sites to implement since many people have an SMS capable phone number and it doesn't require installing.
Hey, Ron, is anything using up your resources?
I don't think so, other than the internet.
Okay, well, we just got to deal with it then. Go on.
All right. It provides a significant step up in account security relative to just a username and password. The disadvantages of SMS two-factor authentication. People don't want to give out their phone number. Attackers using phone number takeovers could get access to your account. You can't log in if your phone is dead or you cannot connect to a network. Now, you can also trick the phone company to assign a number to different SIM cards. If you're doing international travel, you need to be able to get international texts. And again, if you don't have a smartphone, this becomes a problem. For the vast majority of low-risk people, I still feel that this simple approach, the SMS text, is a very good approach. If you are in a very important position, if you look at the crisis on Capitol Hill and all the investigations going on, this all ended up through email hacks. And clearly, if you're in a very important position, you need something more than this SMS two-factor authentication. But I do believe for low-risk people, this is fine. The problem is it depends on the telephone company. If you can phone your cell phone provider and you can get them to assign your phone number to a different SIM card, then of course the second factor that's texted will go to that new phone. So if I was trying to hack into Dave Williams' account and I had his phone number, his cell phone, and I could convince his provider that my new Pixel 2 phone was really his, and they switched that number over to my SIM card, I would then receive his second factor authentication. So again, I think this is fine for low risk people. Now, the second form that I want to talk about is super simple. This is even simpler than the last. And this is using an authenticator app. You don't have to remember authenticator app. I want you to think of this as a stopwatch. Everybody knows how a stopwatch works. So here's how it works. Another phone, Google again, Google Authenticator is a very popular application for this. It's an app that you download onto your phone. It's Google Authenticator works on all forms of two-factor authentication. In fact, there are a number of authenticator apps. They're all about the same. All as they are is a stopwatch. When you click on the start, it starts spewing out 6-digit codes. Now the bad guys can download this app, but what they can't do is they don't know when the app starts. It's a stopwatch. They don't know when you started this app. So here's what it looks like. Once you have scanned, when you come into Google, if you look at the bottom, you will see a QR code. This is generated by Google in your security section. You then take the app, which you'll see is on the bottom right-hand corner here, and this is what the app looks like. You're going to hit that little red plus button. Your phone is going to go into scanning. You simply hold the phone over the QR code, and it will initiate the application. So Google Authenticator will come up as you see there. The digital code is 312450, and this is going to change every 30 seconds. And you can scan this on multiple phones if you have that. Now, the disadvantage to the Authenticator app is if your phone dies or gets stolen and you don't have printed backup codes or a saved copy of the original QR code, you can't access your account. For this reason, many sites will encourage you to enable SMS two-factor authentication as a backup. If you log in frequently on different computers, it can be inconvenient to unlock your phone, open an app, and type in the code each time. Again, this is what I said earlier. You want to prevent the challenges from occurring. But if you look at the bottom right here, you will see this is exactly what mine looks like. Is you'll see your Google account at the top. This is the code for Google 164828. You then have Dropbox, Facebook, and it looks like Amazon there. And it's going to generate those codes every 30 seconds. Now, this is what I call the simplest. This is called the Google prompt method. So you're going to set it up, and you can basically have all your devices logged in to your Google account, and your account is then going to say, okay, are these your computers? Are these safe computers you're going to use? And you're going to say yes. And that's it. You won't get any, you don't have to have an SMS text message. You don't have to have an authenticator app. Anybody who uses those devices will be, you'll get into your account. And if somebody from Kazakhstan wants to log in, then you're going to get a push notification saying to your desktop saying, do you want this device from Kazakhstan to log into your Google account? And you're going to say no. So it's going to lock everybody else out except for your trusted devices. And this is what I call the Google prompt, and this is the simplest one to use. And again, push-based two-factor improves in authentication apps in two ways. It acknowledges the prompt is slightly more convenient than typing in a code, and it is somewhat more resistant to phishing. This requires that you pay close attention to a subtle security indicator, such as an IP address. Disadvantages of this is it's not standardized, and you can't consolidate all your push-based credentials on a simple app. The fourth type of security, which we're not going to talk about today, is using a security key. You'll see on this device on the bottom of the screen, this is a security key. You can buy these on Amazon. They are made by a number of different companies. This is a FIDO one, and you actually have to plug this security key into your computer to make to access your Google account. This actually creates this. You actually physically have to have that key. It unlocks the door. And that's the fourth type. Now the fifth type. Oh, where do you buy those? Of course, you can get those on Amazon. Now the fifth type, which really is very limited, came out in October of this year as a result of the politicians, high-level politicians, getting their emails hacked. And Google has just brought out its own advanced protection, and it locks down accounts like never before. They brought this out in October of 2017. This requires, again, a desktop key, a USB key, but also Google really locks down your account. You can only use Google Apps, and you can't have any extensions or add-ons to any of the apps. Google really only allows their software to be used and locks the account down completely. And so far, it appears that this is the safest method. So for very high-profile people, this would be an option for you. Now, just to show you how this will work, um, this is, you see if you look at the top, sorry, if you look at if you look at here, you'll come to signing into your Google account. Once you click on this, it will take you down, and I want you to go to two-step verification. This is how you're signing into your account, and you're going to click on this. Once you click on that, it brings you to the next menu. Now, if you see, this is your second step, and you'll see on my Google prompt, I have my Samsung Galaxy tablet, and I have my Motorola 4G. I've added these as trusted devices, so when I log in with these devices onto my Google account, I don't get challenged. If you want to use the Google Authenticator app, you will click on this button, and you will then get a QR code initiated, and you will take then your phone, you will take the Google app as I described before, click on that little plus button, hold it over this QR code, and it will enter your account right into the Google app. Very simple to do. What I also recommend is that, and this is where you would do your SMS texting, the next one down here. And I always recommend in Google, they give you backup codes. These are 10 single-digit codes that you can print out. And if you click this little button here that says Show Codes, it brings up this menu, and you will see these are 10 one-time use access codes to your account. You get and you can only use them once. So you print. What I did is I've printed these codes off. I laminated them, and I put them in my wallet just behind my driver's license. So if I lose my cell phone, if something disastrous happens, I can still log into my Google account, and I have 10 tries to correct the problem and get into my account. Again, if you go down, you'll see this is where you would set up the security key, and this is again for your trusted devices. All right, in closing, how to avoid getting locked out when using two-factor authentication. Always print your backup codes and store them securely. Ensure you have a linked email address as well so you can get security codes sent there. Now, in closing, the bad news about two-factor authentication is that nobody's using it. All four major US carriers plan on teaming up to come up with a better solution, as well as Google. Google just did a big conference a couple of months ago, and at that conference, their software engineer, I don't quite understand how you say his first name, but his last name was Milka, was pretty frustrated. Um, Two-factor authentication has been around for 7 years, and less than 10% of people use it. Clearly, the users have are not interested in using it, and Google is working very hard to come up with yet another process of security, an extra layer, and it probably will be available in the next couple of years. And it will be a passive thing that you don't have. There will be no active involvement in you. Google is really good. They know basically who you are by by your footprint on the internet, and they feel they can come up with a passive management to protecting you rather than having to be active where you have a code or something done. And they hope that more people, and by doing that, we won't have to. More people will adopt this. And again, so only about 1 in 10 people use this very effective method on preventing hacking. So I'm going to open it up for questions now. I hope the internet wasn't too much of a problem. Um, and
Well,